Hello Facebook, and welcome to this live session broadcast directly from the European Commission's headquarters in Brussels. We have the honor of hosting today Vice President Maroš Šefčovič together with Solar Impulse Chairman Mr. Bertrand Piccard.
We've been collecting your questions since yesterday, but we are still looking at them right now. You can still post your question to Vice President Šefčovič or Professor Piccard. We will be monitoring your question and try to ask as many as possible during the time we have.
Vice President Professor Piccard, before we start this conversation, let me remind the viewers of the short video you had last time in a very different setting, but that will remind us of how we got to this point. So, please.
Hello Bertrand, good afternoon from here in Brussels, in Berlaymont.
Thank you, Maroš. It's an incredible moment to be able to speak to you at the European Commission from Solar Impulse, because what is happening today is an attempt to make the first ever crossing of the Atlantic with a solar-powered airplane, that means electric airplane with zero emissions.
So that was then. Let me start by asking you why you're meeting again today here at the European Commission.
At first, it's always exciting to see Bertrand because he brings so much of a positive energy to our discussion about renewable energy, about what we can do for the world, how we can tackle climate change and energy poverty. And he got another great idea after really flying around the globe on the electric airplane. He has an idea how to help the world to become a better place by his alliance on energy solutions. So he wants to bring a lot of good ideas together, and we've been discussing how we in the Commission can help him to select the right ideas, how we can find the financing for them, and how we can make them real for the people.
When I initiated the Solar Impulse project, a lot of people told me I was completely crazy. But at the European Commission, they believed in it. And they even said, we would like you to have the European flag on the plane. So that was fantastic to see people who really trusted us. So now there is a new project, and it's normal that we continue together with the European Commission and with Maroš Šefčovič and his colleagues. So the goal is to create the World Alliance for Efficient Solutions, to take all the people who have solutions in the world, and there are a lot, but they are not well known, they are fragmented, they have no funding, bring them together and have the goal of bringing to COP24, that means by the end of 2018, 1,000 solutions that are profitable, really important to emphasize that are profitable to protect the environment. Because if it's not profitable, it's wishful thinking, or it's subsidies, and you have a lot of people fighting against it. So let's show that today we don't only have to be ecological, we can be logical with clean technologies that create jobs, make profit, sustain growth, and at the same time make a cleaner and a better world.
So let me ask you about the geographical scope of the project that you described, because we have a very interesting question coming from Maria de Carmo Branco all the way from Brazil. And she wants to know how can we make people around the world know about renewable projects, not only here in Europe. So maybe you can tell us about this global scope.
It's clear that it's global, and it's clear that it's important also that we have solutions from everywhere. So Facebook Live is a way to connect to you in Brazil. It's a way to connect to everybody in the world. But Solar Impulse Foundation has a big strike power with the media, in communication, political connections. So this is the way we reach all the people who have potential solutions to bring us, and that can be expertised and analyzed by the European Commission, by the specialists, also the International Energy Agency. So there is a lot of goodwill around this, and I'm sure that we will reach our goal of bringing all these solutions who are profitable.
Professor Piccard, does it imply that there will be no Solar Impulse 3?
There is no Solar Impulse 3 today, because we have not finished Solar Impulse 2. Solar Impulse 2 is not only flying around the world in a solar airplane, it's also bringing all these technologies to be available for the world, for everybody. And I think this is how we can give hope You know, we are here at the European Commission because Europe has given hope to the citizens for 60 years by introducing peace in Europe. Now peace is taken for granted, and it's the time to show a new vision. And I deeply believe that the new vision that can bring hope to Europe is the energy program, because with energy, you reduce unemployment, you reduce pollution, you allow growth, you allow social wealth, political stability. A lot of the big priorities of Europe can be put under the roof of energy efficiency and renewable energies.
And Vice President, there's a question by Craig Delves, who's asking how come not every new building and house has a solar panel on it? It's really sporadic. So maybe you can tell us here in Europe what can be done to make sure that individuals can also be part of this revolution and not only entrepreneurs and visionaries like Professor Piccard.
I think that this is really quickly going to change, because when I talk to the construction industry, I know how much they've been waiting for our energy efficiency proposals. And when you talk to the house builders today, I'm told that you can hardly find anybody who is considering to build a new house without solar panels, without battery, without some renewable energy solutions. People really believe in it, and the technology is more and more available. And now every individual can become really the prosumer, meaning that they can produce their own energy. And what is our role in the European Commission and in the European Union is to make sure that for these people it would be much easier to do it. There will be no bureaucratic hurdles. There will be not possible to reject the application of being connected to the grid with solar panels from the incumbent energy companies, and that we have to promote these new energy efficient technologies. And this is what we are doing right now. And therefore, when they ask me what we do actually under the Energy Union umbrella, I said that we are energizing and modernizing Europe. And that's very much what Bertrand is proposing. Therefore, I see that our cooperation and alliance can bring a lot of practical solutions to the people.
Professor Piccard and Vice President Šefčovič, we have a call from the US, from Chris Hall, that is asking when you people, visionaries, are you going to join in America, and what kind of cooperation are you enter to support the people who are active in the US?
That's the goal of the World Alliance. It is also to have solutions, technologies, devices, systems, process that can be implemented in the US in order to show that if you want to make America great again, you need to take renewable energies, you need to take energy efficiency, because this is what is profitable and creates jobs. So today we have solutions that also can convince climate change deniers, because climate change can be improved with clean technologies, but not only climate change, also the rest of the world, also the economy, also the industry, also the finance, also the employment. So this is why today you don't need to be ecological as soon as you are logical.
And I really want to say that we are following, of course, the debate on climate change in the US very, very closely, and we see how intense it is. And when I was in the United States a few days ago, I was really bringing this argument that we in Europe have clearly proven that this energy transition and renewable energy actually has a lot of business sense, that even solar industry in the United States became #2 industry if it comes to the job creation in the energy sector. And I just want to reassure our American friends that we are to continue to provide the European leadership, that we are to work with international partners. We, of course, hope that it would be United States, but we are establishing very close relationship with China. We will put a lot of efforts into making sure that the sustainability goals process of UN will continue. And I see very strong allies across the world, and especially in the United States, in mayors. Therefore, we established this global covenant of mayors as a platform where all cities could come together, where we can help them to transform the cities into the smart cities, which are energy efficient, where there is a clean air to breathe, and where the people can really enjoy the modern, clean urban transport. And for that, we have a lot of support from American mayors, and we definitely would be working very, very close with them. And the last platform where we are also working together with Bertrand and with our American partners, this is the Mission Innovation, which actually was founded in Paris, but it started to work in the United States. We decided that that's such a good platform. We really need to use it better for the future. So European Union is now offering the chairmanship, the presidency of the steering committee, and we want to organize very ambitious summits on the Mission Innovation next year in Europe. And I believe that we will convince more and more people, also in the business circles in the United States, that energy transition, clean energy has a strong, strong business sense and strong job creation potential.
Maybe we can tell the viewers that Mission Innovation is basically an alliance of countries who are going to double their budget for research and development on clean energy, and that is why what you're saying is so important. We have an interesting question for someone who is going to forgive me for mispronouncing his name, Hansueli Moisman, who is asking specifically about e-mobility and what can be done about that. And a similar question, so maybe the Vice President, you can take that one, and a similar question from Jason Osbolt, and that I would maybe ask you, Professor Piccard, who's asking about which concrete technologies do you see who can actually be implemented in the near future?
So I'll start with maybe with e-mobility, because it's exactly what we are working on right now. Before the summer, we want to present the big clean mobility package, where we, of course, have to make sure that in Europe we have more a harmonized approach if it comes to the question how to implement polluter and user pays principle, to use our highways in a really more efficient way and to promote those who are really using the cleaner engines, cleaner cars. But in the second half of the year, we want to come up with new emission standards for cars, for vans, and later on also for the trucks. And it's quite clear that if it comes to the new technologies, which are more and more attractive to the Europeans, this is electric engines, these are hydrogen engines, this is CNG used for buses and LNG used for shipping. And when we ask the industry and citizens what do they need the most, they are telling us we need the good infrastructure. So what I want to promote and support as much as we can, to also find the financial means for acceleration of new infrastructure for these alternative fuels, and then later on to continue with the same approach to the driverless car driving. But there we still need for our scientists to tell us what would be the winning technology and what should be the infrastructure we should build. And then, Bertrand, the other question on the best technologies, I think.
Yes, you know, we
have... or rather those that you think will be implemented soon and can already make that step forward.
First, we have to understand that most of the devices and technologies we use today are 100 years old. Not our smartphone, which is probably the only thing modern we have. Everything else is 100 years old. Combustion engines, insulation of houses, heating and cooling systems, lighting systems, the grid. Everything is old. It's inefficient. And I don't know why we still keep this, because it costs us a lot of money. And this is what produces half of the CO2 emissions in the world. So the first technologies that we need to use are the ones who already exist. It's electrical motors for mobility. It's better insulated houses. It's LED lamps. It's heat pumps. It's smart grid. It's new industrial process. Everything exists. You can do it. Covestro has a process to reduce by 30% the energy needed to produce chlorine. And chlorine is one of the most widely manufactured products. So we see that this exists. Now you have some niche technologies, but so many niche that it makes thousands of opportunities for investment. One example, and we took today 3 of these startups at the European Commission. One is Mascara. It's osmosis desalinization of water with solar energy. You have Ecotech Ceram, who is storing heat, or let's say storing energy into heat that can be used afterward for a lot of users. You have Wattly, who is a huge distribution system, like a smart grid, a small smart grid that can be implemented everywhere in developing countries. You see that this exists, and you have thousands like that. Imagine you bring them together. You make this World Alliance. You find investors, because investors are keen to have possibilities for investment. You have these experts at the European Commission. You change the world. You just change the world. You make good. And this is what the citizens need to hear. It's not about problems. You read problems everywhere, and this makes a depression in the mind of everybody. You give hope. You give solutions. You have everybody who will follow, and everybody who will...
full answer for everything that he can hope for, but I think you found something interesting on your...
Yeah, just to rebound on what you said, we have a question from Peru, from Maria Soledad Ortiz, that is telling us that in Peru you have a lot of solutions for the use of solar energy in small industries, and she's asking, how can you replicate this solution around the world through your alliance?
Please send us your solutions from Peru. This is really good because we will promote them, we will bring them to European Commission, bring them to the media, bring them to governments, and this is our goal. With Solar Impulse, we have a big strike power in communication, so we can really put you in contact with the people who will need your solutions in order to implement them. So really, we are like a facilitator at this alliance.
There's a question here that I really like by Jürgen Müller, and he's asking, how can people like you convince politicians to take this forward? So I think the fact that you're sitting here together and you had a long meeting just before we came down is the proof that you can...
succeeded already.
Yeah, you made it at least in the European Commission, you can put a check. I think you've
absolutely
convinced others, but maybe you can tell us, how do you spread the word and convince others?
Don't put all the politicians under the same umbrella. Because in politics, you have administrators and managers who just do the short term, telling people what to do, and this makes everybody fed up. Now you have other politicians who are leaders and who explain to the population why we have to reach a goal. And they bring the enthusiasm to do it. And this is what I found here with Maroš and his colleagues. Leaders that can change the world because they create the energy, they create the context, they create the situation where all the people will like to work together.
And I just would like to add to that Bertrand is really great in helping us to pass the message, because he's kind enough to join me and my second edition of Energy Union Tour, where we are talking not only to the politicians or parliamentarians, but where we are trying to talk as much as possible to the citizens, especially to the students at the university. So we'll go together to France, to Romania, to Portugal for having this exchange. And to Beijing as well. So we will be there performing together, explaining what we want to achieve. And I believe that also with his help, we will be able to convince at first European member states, and then I believe also others across the globe, that what we need to do is to have very clear vision how we want to change the energy patterns for 2030 and how we want to build a carbon neutral society for the second half of the century. And I would just remind, this is the goal under which we all signed up in Paris. So we really have to work together to achieve it.
Mr. Vice President, we have had several questions, notably from Jocelyn and Eloise, about the link with education. How do you bring these values, this hope, and these skills to the young generation?
I think there are several aspects to it. First, I think we really have to start in the kindergartens, in the primary schools, just to explain how our planet functions, what we as a humans being are doing to the planet, how we've been harming our Earth for many years, and what we need to do to really correct our course. But then, of course, later on at the lycées and at the universities, I believe that we need to motivate our young people to study much more technical sciences. I would call them earth sciences, climate sciences, because when I'm traveling across the world, very often I see the entrepreneurs and sometimes true innovators, and they're telling me we have a problem to find, good technicians, good chemists, good physicists who can actually help us to bring this innovation and this new idea into the practical technological solutions. And therefore, I think we also need to tell the young people that by choosing the right subject to study, you can actually make sure that you will have wonderful, interesting, perfect job, but at the same time you will be helping such an important evolution like fight against climate change.
I'm afraid this is all the time we have, and we will have to conclude here. Let us once again thank Vice President Šefčovič and Professor Piccard for being with us today.
So let us also thank you for your questions. We try to take as many as possible, but if you believe that this is the future, if you believe that we must seek new innovative solutions to fight climate change, help us pass this message. Share this video with your friends, with your families, and let them know how important it is that we fight for a cleaner future.
Thank you, Dan, for co-hosting this session with me.
Thank you, Alexandra, and until next time, goodbye from Brussels.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.